Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kurt, and welcome back to Space Engine. Here we are, once again, orbiting above the planet Earth. I think, wait a minute, whoa. Let's look back at the Earth here. Oh, I think hold on, let me make it current time. Boop, there we go, that makes more sense. Yes, the sunset is creeping up upon myself in the Midwest of the United States there, but here we are back in Space Engine. For those of you who might be new subscribers, might not have seen previous videos, this is a free 3D universe exploration simulator type thing. Hard to explain, but it's a great piece of software. Link is in the doobly-doo below, where you can download it for yourself for Windows. I'm currently using 9.62 beta. This is the version I'm using. Actually, the developer released a sneak peek at the next version, 0.97, and that one I'm going to be excited for. Hasn't given a release date, but they've included comets. I've discovered there aren't comets yet in this version. Also atmospheric effects like the aurora borealis, and things like that. So looking forward to the next version and the further development of this awesome piece of software. But yeah, here we are. Once again, outside Earth. We're apparently located in the sun. A little bit overzealous with the Michael Bay effects, but it's really cool looking. And since yesterday's Far Lands or Bust, I talked a lot about astronomy, answered your astronomy questions. I felt like let's get into this and actually cover some of those topics. Just the topics that have hit the news that you guys asked me about my opinions on, or if I have any further details. Certainly, with all of these things, you'll be much better off consulting the internet, those sources that I linked you to in that episode of Far Lands or Bust, the blogs, the astronomy news, the NASA websites, and things like that. But it's kind of cool that you guys enjoy when I come into software like this and kind of just give you a little bit of a tour, show you around, give you an update as to what is happening in the night skies and the universe that surrounds us. And is within us, because we are made of star stuff. Ooh, I think I have the brightness on a little bit high. Yes, I do. So yeah, this is we're gonna be mostly sticking within the solar system, but I felt it was probably necessary to mention one of the items in the news recently is our good friend, the asteroid named Apophis, which has been making waves the last decade or so since it's been discovered, in that it is a near-Earth, potentially hazardous asteroid, making its rounds and intersects with our Earth orbit. Let me, first of all... Oh, no, that's not how we do such things as these. This is how we do such things. Let me turn off the sun, because that is really bright and it makes it difficult to see the orbits here. So yeah, there's good old Earth right there selected. Venus, Mars, and back to Earth. What we are looking for is our good friend Apophis, which I just had. I think this is him right here. Yep. Asteroid 99942 Apophis. I don't think, let me first state, I don't think that this software, Space Engine, has the full up-to-date information about the locations and the orbits of these very hard-to-predict objects like Apophis, or comets or things like that. So this is a little bit inaccurate as to our current location in regards to Earth and the asteroid, but regardless, the recent news is that it currently made its quote-unquote close pass near Earth, a close pass, and we're talking 14 million kilometers, so not close by any stretch of the imagination, but a close enough pass where scientists have gotten a much more entire picture of the asteroid, and they have used radar telescopes. Basically, like radar works when you're talking about airplanes and stuff like that. You see the radar signatures, you send out a ping, and then it pings back and gives you the information about its velocity and its distance and which direction it's heading, blah, 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 blah. They've made more calculations based on this recent past. And actually, let me, since we're not just looking at a blank screen here, let me fast forward time What am I following? I don't know what I'm technically following here. There we go. Let's actually look at Apophis. And you can see how its orbit brings it close to Venus and then back out. And if you remember Kerbal Space Program, how we attempt to rendezvous, whenever Apophis is closer to the Sun than the Earth, it's actually going to be traveling faster and catching up. But there is a point where it is further away from the Sun, and then Earth actually travels faster. So it's very difficult to estimate the period and the synchronization between the Earth and Apophis. But basically, what these most recent observations have told us is that they can completely rule out any chance. It used to be like 1 in a million or something like that, but we can now rule out any chance of an impact in 2036, which is what we were all worried about. The next really close pass is going to be in 2029. That's actually going to be a close pass. Definitely not a hit, definitely no problems, but it's going to be closer than the moon, and actually closer and might dip under our communication satellites, so that's going to be interesting. Keep an eye on 2029. But during that pass, what people were concerned about, what astronomers were concerned about, was the fact that if it passes through a specific point in the sky in regards to Earth, the gravitational forces from Earth will actually tug on Apophis and set it up for that collision course. Ooh, here's a nice... Like I said, this... Whoa! This, Oh. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There's kind of a... what would be considered a pass, as it were. But like I said, not completely accurate to what's going to happen, say, in 2016. But basically, if it traveled through the space in 2029, its orbit would get adjusted by the Earth's gravitational pull, and then there would be a greater chance for an impact in 2036. But these latest observations, let me repeat, have confirmed that it will not pass through the keyhole. Therefore, there will not be an impact risk. An impact risk in 2036. So good news all around. Let's take a look. We have no idea. We have a few pixels on a screen of what Apophis really looks like, obviously, but this software, Space Engine, will procedurally generate it. We'll guess just based on what does an asteroid look like. Okay, here's what an asteroid looks like. What's about the size? Okay, here's about the size. And this is what Space Engine is telling us Apophis looks like. So maybe not. Necessarily not. See, there's the Earth and the Moon. Ooh, that's pretty cool. To be able to see both the Earth and the Moon in one shot over Apophis. But basically, another thing we learned from this most recent pass observation is that it's actually a lot larger than we thought it was. It's actually, instead of, I think we believed it was 270 meters in diameter, it's actually 325 meters in diameter and 75% more massive than we previously estimated. I think 325 meters. People keep comparing it to, it's probably about the size of an aircraft carrier in terms of its, if you were to measure from front to end. Obviously, as you can see here, it's not a slim, skinny aircraft carrier shape. It's a big, giant boulder. So there's a lot of mass in there, and it certainly would be bad news if there was an impact, but there's no foreseeable impact risk at all. Just look forward to 2029 when we do have a rather interesting close flyby of a very large asteroid. I'm not sure if it's going to be naked eye visible. Certainly through telescopes we'd be able to track it, so look forward to that. Keep that on your calendars. 2029. Pencil that in. Another thing, unfortunately, like I mentioned with this software, does not, at least as far as I've been able to discover, does not include comets. I'm not sure why. Like if I go to the... Whoop, not what I wanted to go to. Oh, here we go. Even though it has selections for comets, I'm assuming they just haven't, due to the lack of information, or they just decided to skip that stuff for now. Comets are pretty difficult to render, obviously, and things like that. So no comets, unfortunately, in this software just yet. Let's look at the orbits of asteroids, however. Look at all these guys. Look at all of them on the inner solar system, all potentially hazardous things that we have to keep an eye on. Woo, it's crowded out there. We have some asteroids out here, and even farther ones like Sedna and Eris, and wow, look at Sedna's orbit. Crazy. But anyway, a few other news items in astronomy. The comet known as ISON, I-S-O-N, more scientifically known as Comet C 2012 S1, is actually going to be making a pass in 2013, and all of the news headlines, ever since the new year, I think what news organizations and newspapers and stuff do is whenever there's a new year, they like just search into Google things that are going to happen in 2013, and then they make an article out about it. There's no new information about this. We knew about this last year, but this Comet ISON, discovered last year, is going to make a pass closest to the sun on November 28th, 2013. If it survives coming out the other side, it's going to pass pretty close, and comets are pretty much just clumped up dirty ice balls, kind of like, for those of you who live in snowy climates, that gross, dirty brown snow that collects in the fender of your car. That's basically what a comet is, but much, much larger and orbiting the sun. Basically, if it survives from the other side, it has the possibility, the potential, to be one of the brightest comets of our modern time, perhaps brighter than even the full moon at night, which would be interesting. What these articles aren't telling you, because they want to get your attention with a magical headline saying, "Oh, there's going to be a comet next year, brighter than the sun." What they don't tell you is that it's very difficult to predict these things. Like I said, the comet could be ripped apart and completely destroyed by getting so close to the sun, and it won't come out the other side, and there will be no comet to see anymore. Also, it might survive. It just might, for whatever reason, its composition might not be enough of that dirty, dusty ice, and it might be a little bit more of a solid rock. Therefore, you don't get the bright tail and the vapor trail that you get out of comets. Very difficult to predict. So, while I don't want to squash anybody's looking forward to this awesome comet, and we're certainly due for an awesome comet in the night sky, a naked eye comet, but keep caution with this. If it doesn't happen, don't be disappointed. It's not a very easy thing to predict. On the flip side, there have been comets that we just simply didn't expect that ended up being pretty amazing comets, such as Comet McNaught in 2007, Comet Lovejoy in 2011. Those were mostly visible to the southern hemisphere, so we in the northern hemisphere are due for a visible comet. And like I said, if it does survive passing by the sun on November 28th of 2013, December 26th is when it would make its closest pass by Earth. So it's being kind of known as the Christmas comet for next year. So keep an eye on that. Hopefully something happens. Like I said, we in the northern hemisphere are due for quite an awesome cometary display in the night sky. So who knows? There's also another comet known as PANSTARRS, Comet C 2011 L4. It's going to make its pass on March 5th, 2013, and once again, predicted, possibly, it could reach a magnitude -4 brightness, which is about the same brightness as Venus, which is pretty bright for a comet, and that might be visible as well. So potential new comets to look forward to in the new year. We have at least 2 chances, and who knows, throughout the year, one might be discovered at the last minute and say, "Oh, there it is, right there." So cool stuff in terms of the news, indeed. Now let's turn our sights. Let's turn off these orbits. Let's turn our sights to some of the Kepler planets. Kepler is the telescope, the planet hunting telescope that is in orbit around the Earth right now, sent up by NASA. It's looking off in this section of the sky in Cygnus, the Swan. It's very much looking at a very small portion. I'm not sure how. Where is the Swan? I'm looking upside down and backwards. It's very, very hard to see things with so many stars. But basically, we're basically looking at. I know you can't see my cursor, but if I select here, say here, and here, that's basically the square about whereabouts. This is a very rough estimate, but this is about the location in the sky that Kepler is looking at. Based on this data and based on the planets that it has discovered within this area, let me try to find a Kepler planet again. Based on the data that we've discovered so far, scientists have crunched the numbers, and I mentioned this before, but they have possibly estimated that our Milky Way galaxy is home, just based on this small chunk of the sky. If you expand that by how many actual stars of similar kind there are in the Milky Way, that there could be 100 billion planets in the Milky Way system. Of those 100 billion, about 17 billion of those would be Earth-sized. Not necessarily habitable, might be too close to their stars like this one, which is a scorched desert. Obviously, as you can see, orbiting quite close to its parent star. Ooh, we have a transit going on, or maybe that's going behind. It's probably going behind. But it's very, very cool news. Like I said, making a lot of headlines in the non-science news organizations. Oh, that's on the other side, yep. I've seen headlines say, scientists confirm 100 billion planets in the Milky Way. No confirmations. Just estimations based on what we currently have in terms of data. Ooh, this transit of Venus. Of Kepler 10b. Oops, I'm stuck inside the planet now. There we go. That is not a planet you wish to be stuck inside of. Oh, that's a cool effect. Ooh, fancy. Oh, that was really cool. Oh, I don't even have the lens flare on. For Pete's sake, what am I doing? Let's turn on the lens flare. Or not. Auto exposure? Huh. Oh, I guess we're so close to the star that the lens flare simply doesn't care. Yeah, so let's, I often say these episodes or these videos are going to be kind of short, but I always end up just getting lost and traveling around different solar systems outside of our own. Yeah, it's everything's overexposed here. Alright, there we go. Whoa, there's that lens flare we missed. Hello. Aha. Anyway, so yeah, that is the news about exoplanets. Lastly, on our list of things to talk about, let's go back to more familiar ground. That is what our Milky Way galaxy, or our Milky Way, our solar system looks like from one of the Kepler planets. Pretty much bupkis. Looks like bupkis. But gonna talk about Mars. A lot of you have been sending me messages asking me, this is very recent, the last few days. There is a Dutch founded, or not founded, but Dutch, I guess that's where they organized, or that's where they filed their business plans, or however it legally works, but based on Dutch law, they are a non-profit. They are completely incapable of saying three simple words. Not for profit, called Mars One. They're basically, here's the gist, and you might have seen the fancy YouTube video where they introduced this, but basically it's an organization who say they are going to put colonists on the moon by 2023. Let that sink in for a little bit. 2023, 10 years from right now. Right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm extraordinarily skeptical of such things as these. They have, like I said, a fancy YouTube video up showing their plans. They have endorsements by a Nobel Prize winning physicist and other people. They have letters of intent from possible suppliers of spacecraft, such as SpaceX and other private spaceflight companies. Letters of intent just means like, yes, if you give us plans and you have the money, we would possibly be able to fulfill your spaceflight needs. That's all that means. That doesn't mean they have contracts or money has exchanged hands. Basically, they're saying, here's the timeline they're saying they're going to put a communication satellite into Mars orbit 2016. They're going to send a lander, a robotic vehicle, to the surface in 2018 to go pick out, speaking of the surface, let's go down, to pick out a colonization location for the settlement, 2018. And then they say the first 4 colonists will land on 2023. And here's the kicker, see? It is going to be a one-way trip. A one-way trip. This is a settlement. They're going to send 4 colonists at a time, and they say that they're going to fund this. You might be saying, where's all this money come from? Our own governments can't even figure this out. And we took so long to get just the current Mars rover onto the surface of Mars. They're claiming that even though they do have some private funding already, that the mission itself is going to be funded by what they plan on being a reality show, obviously surrounding the chosen astronauts in the process of getting from where we are now to landing on the moon. That would be a lot easier and a lot more plausible, actually, to landing on Mars. And the reality show will generate the revenue for them to actually pay for the missions and the life support and etc. and whatnot. And indeed, obviously, there's a lot of holes in this plan. If they're planning on having a robotic vehicle choose the settlement location, land in 2018, we have not seen any specific plans for this robot, nor have there been any, like I said, contracts or plans drawn up for even the launch to get there. There's the big, what is it called? Mount Olympus, I believe is what, Olympus Mons. Sorry, that's what it's called. The largest volcano and mountain in the solar system. It's so large that it protrudes almost out of the atmosphere of Mars. It's kind of cool. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Mars One situation. Also, the fact that we haven't even heard of these people who are putting this thing on. It would be a little bit different if, say, Richard Branson, who's behind the Virgin Empire, the Virgin Galactic now, who's doing the suborbital flights, or say Elon Musk, who's behind SpaceX. It would be a little bit different if perhaps one of them came forward with this plan and said, this is what I'm planning to do. Obviously, they have a little bit more credentials behind them, a little bit more trustworthy, kind of like, okay, we know where this guy came from, we know what he's about, and then perhaps I could believe his claims and his plans and go forth. But this is kind of a no-name. Like I said, they've been founded under Dutch law. They're non-profit. Not anything against the Dutch. I'm just saying it's a little bit out of the blue. And there have been plans like this in the past. Who was it? What company was planning? Was it Coke or McDonald's? Burger King? Somebody wanted to put an advertisement on the moon. People have these plans, and it generates a lot of buzz at the time, and it's great, don't get me wrong, it's great that we're even discussing this, and that perhaps, if anything, it will just open up our society to be more open to the possibility of, when we do eventually land humans on Mars, them perhaps staying there, and it being a one-way trip, as opposed to the current idea behind at least NASA missions that, same with the moon, is that you should bring the astronauts there and return them safely to Earth. So, if anything, it starts the discussion. I'll keep an eye on it. I'm not applying for it. There is an application process already that you can, and apparently over 1,000 people have applied for it. I just don't see, if anything, the funds being there. I don't think a reality TV show, regardless of how popular it is or how much advertising dollars they bring in, I don't believe that would even come close to funding such an undertaking. But there, I have talked about it. Those are my opinions. Perhaps you can leave your opinions in the comments below. And yeah, this is Phobos, the moon of Mars. Here's a very picturesque way to end this episode of Space Engine. Like I said, link in the description where you can get this piece of software and explore the universe yourself. My name is Kurt. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.